Hey guys, what's happening? Thanks for watching, coming back, tuning in, whatever it is, and I appreciate it. So, I got a little video for you about Luminar today, and something I've been noticing about my photography. Now, it's apparently something I've been doing a little bit over time, and I never really realized it, and that is including people purposefully in my photos. Generally speaking, if someone says, "Hey Jim, what do you shoot?" My sort of smart aleck answer is, I'll shoot anything as long as it can't talk back. Which is to say, I'm not going to do portraits, I'm not going to do weddings. I generally don't shoot people, and in fact, when I travel, my favorite time of day to shoot is sunrise because I can get a beautiful, popular, amazing place pretty much all to myself, and that's kind of how I prefer it. So you'll see a lot of my photos in cities and that sort of thing without any people in it, and it's either because I got lucky or I got up early, and it's usually because I got up early. But what I've found is that there are times when I'm actually placing a person in my photo on purpose because I think it lends some interesting scale and perspective and a nice look to a photo. So I've got a photo from Venice where I was shooting the sunset and there's canals and there's all this beautiful stuff and the light was great. And it was just kind of missing something. And then these two girls walk by, and one I'm in kind of a bright red dress, and then they kind of walk in front of me as I'm shooting. And then they sit down, and at first I'm like, damn it, it was sunset, so you can't get away from tourists, especially in Venice and by the canal. But first I was like, well, crap, these stupid humans are in my photo or whatever, right? Then I realized I was like, this is actually an opportunity to do something different. And so I did something different. I actually placed them in the photo, and actually, you know what? It's a much better photo. And so and this was a couple of years ago when I took it. So now when I'm out shooting, I find myself often looking for, how can I include a human, just maybe one or two, in my photo to give it an interesting sort of perspective or make it kind of different than just a picture of a place. It seems to lend it a little bit more life. So that's what I'm talking about today. Let me show you the photo. Here's the base photo. Now I've cropped it, and I'll show you that in a minute. And then here's what I did after editing it in Luminar. So let me reset all this stuff and I'll walk you through what I did. Okay, first things first, I started with a crop. And so you can see, basically I put it in a 16:9 crop, which I've said in the recent videos, I'm really loving. And so even though I've had this photo in my library for a couple of years, I had never edited it. And so anyway, I cropped it down. I got rid of that building on the right-hand side. And even though I lost a little bit of the sky, it allowed me, you can see the intersection of the grid lines for the rule of thirds, kind of right there between those two girls. And I just think it works better. So I went ahead and went with that and ended up with this crop. And so at that point, I was like, I kind of got something I like. I think it gives a nice foreground element. Her red dress is going to pop. Well, you saw the final result. It's really going to pop, and the sky looks gorgeous, and I'm going to do some things to sort of customize it. So, but the first thing I had to do is tone filter, because that, to me, I had to sort of control the light a little bit. So a little too blown out and a little bit better, right? So it's basically, I took the highlights down. That's all I did. So very simple. I went into color temp and made a slight adjustment here, made it a little bit cooler and up the tint. My typical move, the temperature left, tint to the right. It's just a nice little balance of color. And then I went saturation and vibrance. And both of them, I bumped them up a decent amount. And you can see her dress is really starting to pop. There's the before and the after. So starting to get some color in the scene. And this is kind of about the part in my editing where I kind of start to get all happy. I just get excited because the colors start to look good. And I've kind of got the light under control. And I'm like, all right, now it's just a matter of like finishing. And it doesn't mean it's easy, but when I'm at this point, I can kind of say, all right, I'm going to like the photo. I guess that's really what this is the, like the top of the roller coaster, you're going tick, 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 and you get to the top and you're like, oh yeah. And it's just the downhill. Now it might be scary. At least a roller coaster would be. I don't even know where I'm going with that. The point is, this is the point where I'm at the crest and I'm like, yeah, it's downhill from here because I'm just going to crush it and I'm going to end up liking the photo. So next up was split color warmth. So that allows you to take the warm colors and the cool colors and move them in different areas, right? Move them in different directions. So I bumped them both a little bit. It's minor. Top and bottom lighting was next. So there's the before and the after. It's really just, as you can see, a small bump in the bottom. And now here's something that I did that I thought was kind of fun. I added a vignette and then I masked it out some. So I added the vignette, but let me show you the mask. Let's see here. So click brush And there we go. So I put the vignette on and it seemed a little bit too strong, but when I backed it down, it was going away too much. So I basically just took a 50% opacity brush and erased it a little bit. Now, as you can see, I didn't really get the edges because obviously I want the vignette to show up some, but I masked it out a little bit. So I don't know if you've ever tried that trick, but because it's a filter like any other filter, you can use a brush mask and just mask it in or out selectively. So a vignette doesn't actually have to conform to what the vignette filter will give you. You can customize it with the mask. So that's what I did there. At this point, I thought, all right, I'm losing the girls a little bit. Even though she's got that bright red in her dress, I wanted to pop it a little bit. And so I basically shined a spotlight on her and a little bit on her friend. Now, the friend's in more of a blue kind of a dress or whatever, so you don't see that as much. But there's the before Dodge and Burn, and there's the after. So basically, I just brightened that a little bit. So Dodge and Burn, you just click Start Painting. I chose Lighten at 35%, and I just painted over them till I was happy with it and said Done. Works super great. I use it on a lot of images. It's a great way to control the light and really powerful filter, so well worth having. And then it was like literally downhill slide here. The next thing I did was add golden hour, and I also did a custom mask on this because when I stuck it on across the entire photo, it was too much. And the truth is, I just wanted it in the sky and the water on that left side and the water kind of between the girl in the red dress and that other gondola. So I just masked it in there. And that's all you do, right? You just grab the brush and you just, you can see what I did. Oh, and I went at 50% opacity, so a little bit lower opacity, well, half strength, I guess. So you could come back and customize this, or you could just keep painting over it to, oops, that's erase. You could just keep painting over it to darken it and that sort of thing if you want to add a little bit more. But as you can see, I mostly just wanted the golden hour to show up in those areas. And the reason why is because number one, the golden hour is going to hit the sky because the clouds had a little bit of gold in them, but also because that's where the reflections mostly fall in the water. In the center there, kind of in front of those girls, you don't really see a lot of gold being reflected in the water. And so I left that out, and I don't know, it also sort of helps frame them a little bit, almost like there's a halo of gold around them. The sky's around them, and then the water on both sides is kind of popping. And the truth is, her dress is like bright and saturated enough that I don't want to, add anything to it. And so another reason why I masked in a golden hour. And then, I used Vignette once, and I came back at this point and said, you know what, I'm going to add another Vignette. And that's another thing you can do. You can stick a double Vignette on there. And so this time, even though I went pretty heavy, a negative 58 on that right-hand side, because up above, when I used the Vignette filter, a few moments ago, I had masked it in, so it's not as strong. So even though I've got two vignettes, it's coming through fairly lightly over there because I masked a lot of it out last time. And so I rarely, in fact, almost never use two vignettes, but I felt like the first one, after I masked it, it was about right, but when I got down and did these other steps, I felt like I still wanted to tighten that up a little bit. I also placed the center over there closer to the girls and added a little inner light. And so let me show you that last vignette. And in fact, let me show you the golden hour again. I'm not sure I spent enough time on that. So if you look at the sky and those two parts of the water, they're getting a bit more pop. And that's all I wanted to do. If it applied across the entire photo, it would be kind of hitting the building over there on the right. And I'm fine with the building the way it is. Not the point of the photo. I really want to focus your attention on the beautiful light and, two girls sitting here, kind of the, I don't want to call them the subject of the photo, but they're kind of, they're important to the photo. They anchor the foreground. That's the best way of putting it. So it really helps anchor it, because otherwise I'm just looking out across at some gondolas and some tourists, and you're like, oh, it's Venice and it's nice light and it's pretty, but that's about it. And so that's where I'm finding more and more, and I realize I've been doing this some over the years, but I never really thought about it because I always said, well, I don't shoot people. I don't want people in my photos. I like an empty scene. But there are times when it makes a whole lot of sense to, stick a human in there or find a human. So when they walked in front of me at first, as I said, I was kind of like, well, crap, but then when they sat down, I was like, hey, actually, this might actually work pretty well. Also notice that their heads don't, the way I think, I don't remember if I was standing up or squatting to shoot this. I was obviously a little bit higher than they were, so I don't know if it was a full stand or not, but anyway, the top of their heads do not come up to that dock over here where these gondolas are. I wouldn't want to have them intersect. I want some water between them. So it creates a little bit of space, and I think that's a good thing to have. Anyway, let me get back to this last vignette. You can see it. I've tightened it a little bit more on the right-hand side because I placed the center more closer to where those girls are sitting. And that's really it, guys. So, you know, about controlling the light and enhancing the color. But for me, also, a double vignette and using a human to sort of anchor that foreground, I think makes all the difference in the world. So there's the before. And by the way, I think the crop helps a lot because otherwise it would have had extra space in the sky and there wasn't enough going on. It wasn't enough different enough from the sky that I already still have in the photo to really make a difference. So I didn't feel like I lost much. Lost a little bit of foreground, but mostly I lost a lot of stuff on the right-hand side, including that building that was taller and that sort of thing. So I just think it's a cleaner cut, you know, or cleaner crop being in 16 by 9. And there's the after one more time, before and after. And if you want to see a slider, there we go. You can see it really brought up the colors quite a bit. I think the water, I mean, it looks like a painting, to be honest. I think that water just looks awesome. I'm a little biased because I just did that edit job. But I mean, golly, it's just kind of, you know, it's flowing and the color's great. Anyway, so that's what I did here, and just some thoughts on including people and using them to like add an element of interest, you know, maybe a different look to a photo. Try it if you haven't. It works. It's really cool, and it's fun to experiment with, and you never know what you're going to get. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you got any questions or comments, feel free to hit me up with a comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with your friends if you would. I'd appreciate it. I hope you're having fun out there. Have a great time shooting, and come back soon. I'll have more videos, and I'm going to quit pointing at you. Sorry about that. I feel like I'm like, hey, you. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great one. See you soon, and adios.